Don't forget, the Supreme Court's ruling today helps lay the groundwork for Project 2025. When Roberts wrote, quote, "When the president exercises such authority, Congress cannot act on and courts cannot examine the president's actions," he is describing the maximalist version of unitary executive theory that can be found in Project 2025. Unitary executive theory advocates for full presidential control over the executive branch without checks from Congress or the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court just ruled 6-3 that presidents, in this case Donald Trump, do have criminal immunity from official acts, but not all acts are official. I want to read some excerpts from the ruling. I want to break it down in an easy to understand way and make sure we're all on the same page. First, CNN reads, "The Supreme Court ruled Monday that Donald Trump may claim immunity from criminal prosecution for some of the actions he took in the waning days of his presidency, in a decision that will likely further delay a trial on the federal election subversion charges pending against him." So the president does get immunity for official acts, but not for unofficial acts. And what the Supreme Court decided to do was kick it down to a lower court so they can decide what unofficial versus official acts are. How do we define these two terms? It's a 6-3 decision with some concurring opinions. Barrett concurring in part only. Kagan, Sotomayor, and Jackson dissent with 2 dissenting opinions. And some parts of this decision really jump out at you and relate directly back to Project 2025 and other Republican plans. So this part directly from the ruling reads, "When the president exercises such authority, Congress cannot act on and courts cannot examine the president's actions. It follows that an act of Congress, either a specific one targeted at the president or a generally applicable one, may not criminalize the president's actions within his exclusive constitutional power." From the Supreme Court. When Donald Trump talks about being a dictator day one, he is talking about stripping independence from agencies, appointing a bunch of loyalists into key positions as civil servants, and then consolidating power within the executive branch, and Justice Roberts is laying the groundwork for that right now. They are laying the groundwork for Project 2025 with the Supreme Court. It's terrifying. Page 8 of the opinion says, "Some of the president's other constitutional powers also fit that description." Quote, "The president's power to remove and thus supervise those who wield executive power on his behalf. For instance," quote, "follows the text of Article 2. We have thus held that Congress lacks authority to control the president's," quote, "unrestricted power of removal with respect to," quote, "executive officers of the United States whom he has appointed." And this next part is absolutely wild. This is actually in the Supreme Court decision. Quote, "When the president uses his official powers in any way, under the majority's reasoning, he now will be insulated from criminal prosecution. Orders the Navy's SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? Immune. Organizes a military coup to hold on to power? Immune. Takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon? Immune. Immune, immune, immune. Let the president violate the law. Let him exploit the trappings of his office for personal gain. Let him use his official power for evil ends. Because if he knew that he may one day face liability for breaking the law, he might not be as bold and fearless as we would like him to be." That is the majority's message today. Even if these nightmare scenarios never play out, and I pray they never do, the damage has been done. The relationship between the president and the people he serves has shifted irrevocably. In every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law. That is Sotomayor dissenting. They actually put that in the Supreme Court decision. So Sotomayor had some great takes there. Page 4 of the opinion says that the courts may not inquire as to why the President of the United States ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a U.S. citizen. It says, "In dividing official from unofficial conduct, courts may not inquire into the President's motives. Such a, quote, highly intrusive inquiry would risk exposing even the most obvious instances of official conduct to judicial examination on the mere allegation of improper purpose. Nor may the courts deem an action unofficial merely because it allegedly violates a generally applicable law. Otherwise, presidents would be subject to trial on, quote, every allegation that an action was unlawful, depriving immunity of its intended effort." So the court is essentially saying that official acts, even if done for unofficial unofficial gain or unofficial purposes cannot be examined by the courts. So say that Donald Trump bribes somebody and says that he'll give them a pardon if they do this. If they do it and then Donald Trump gives them a pardon, the courts cannot even examine that because that would fall under an official act. So think about it. If Donald Trump promises to pardon anyone who helps him commit as many crimes as needed to get into office this November, and then he gets into office and actually pardons those people, that would qualify as an official act under this ruling. And the thing is, Donald Trump has already promised to pardon the January 6th hostages, as he calls them, so he is already laying the groundwork to pardon any loyalists who skirt the law, skirt the norms to help him get into power and to help him remain in power. Part of Project 2025 is appointing tens of thousands of loyal and vetted civil servants that have been trained to only help Donald Trump no matter what, and if Donald Trump promises to pardon those people if they break the law for him, that will also be an official act. This ruling perfectly lays the groundwork for Project 2025, and you can see the fingerprints of the Heritage Foundation all over it. And I already read what Sotomayor wrote on page 29, her dissenting opinion, but it's actually a really powerful point. So she lays the groundwork by saying, if the president orders the Navy SEAL team to assassinate a political rival, immune. Organizes a military coup to hold on to power, immune. Takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon, immune, immune, immune. Let the president violate the law. Let him exploit the trappings of his office for political gain. Let him use his official power for evil ends, because if he knew that he may one day face liability for breaking the law, he may not be as bold and fearless as he would like him to be. That is the majority's message today. Sotomayor is saying that is what the majority wants you to take away, and that is an awful, awful takeaway. The next president, if it is Donald Trump, will commit crimes without even second guessing, without thinking twice, because he won't be afraid of being held accountable, because again, he can just pardon himself or say that this was all an official act. So a president that feels free to act with complete immunity will take actions that aren't in the interest of the American people, will commit crimes, will repeatedly commit crimes if it's Donald Trump and his MAGA lunatics, and know that they are above the law. This ruling essentially says that presidents are now above the law if it qualifies as an official act, but anything can qualify as an official act if the president is clever enough to pardon himself after or do this or that. So the consequences of this ruling are insane. Ron Filipkowski on Twitter said, even long after Biden and Trump are gone, the consequences of this ruling will still haunt the nation, and I absolutely believe that. If Donald Trump gets back into office, the threat of him enacting Project 2025 has now just increased a lot. If he enacts Project 2025 and enacts this maximalist version of the unitary executive theory, he will genuinely be a dictator. And one last thing I want to point out is that Project 2025 says the words day one at least 20 times, and they're always capitalized. Day one is capitalized. It's not an error. It's purposely capitalized. And what does Donald Trump say all the time? He wants to be a day one dictator. I don't think that's a coincidence. If you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, make sure to leave a like, comment a blue heart, hit that subscribe button, be there for my live stream tonight, and have a great day. Also, I'll be linking down below a video of mine where we go through and read Project 2025, the primary source.